Beautiful. So I think we're doing our first ever double bill.
Double
is that right?
bill.
Double bill.
A thing unheard of, because we watched Claire's film and we knew Laura was next, and then I was having a film film night last night, and we decided for efficiency reasons to get ahead of time a recommendation from Laura as to what she was going to pick. So we've watched both, and now we've all bloody done it. So shall we crack on?
Let's do it.
Excellent. First up was The Pianist.
Mm-hmm.
Claire, your choice.
You are welcome.
Can you talk to us about this one?
Well, it's a very famous film, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I feel like it's maybe a duty of ours to at least be aware of just how awful the human species is. And Laura had been in Warsaw, so I thought that was probably as good a time as any to suggest watching a horrifically depressing film.
Yeah.
And it was rough.
It was a tough watch, wasn't it?
Mm.
Not going to watch that again in a hurry.
No. Are you happy to have watched it?
I wouldn't say happy. Jesus, Claire.
Honestly, just Claire's fine.
Yes, I'm glad I've seen it. I thought it was very good.
Yep.
Harrowing.
How about you, Claire? Are you glad you picked it?
No, I hated almost all of it, and it made me really, really sad. And since Heather's been born, I can't hear children crying without it haunting my dreams.
Oh.
And we just, how did we do these awful things to each other? It's just not. And I wish I could be like, oh yeah, it's just a film. Things weren't actually that bad, but
They
we know
were.
they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people actually
really
went
was
through
that
that.
bad.
And it's just awful. And yeah, it just made me really sad. So yeah, I don't. Yeah. I think if it hadn't been for Film Club, I might have stopped watching.
Yeah. So you sort of wish you hadn't picked it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was really tough.
Mm.
How about you, Fernando? How did you find it?
Well, this was my second time watching the film. I knew that I had watched it before, probably when it came out. I think I liked it then, but this second time, I'm not sure if I did not know or if I didn't remember that it was based on real events and on the autobiography of this person. So I was. Should I say I enjoyed it better knowing that it was based on of course everything that is based on the Second World War is always based on real events, but like doubly based on real events. It was not just history, but also someone's personal story, which made it much more interesting, I thought.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What did you think, Michael?
I found it very tough to watch. But we, as is what we do with Film Club, we decide that we commit to a film, and when I had watched it, I realised it was a really great film. Firstly, it's great. Yeah, it felt, I think, like Claire said, a bit like a duty, like an important film that we sort of have to watch because we kind of need to make sure it still feels real. And we have to remind ourselves just how I think this was probably the worst thing that ever happened in humanity. And yeah, it's important for us to remember that. But then trying to detach yourself a bit, it was a great film. It was really well done. Really well put together, very believable, I guess, because it was a true story. But besides the horror of it that I really felt, on a level I enjoyed it. I thought it was engaging. I wanted to know what happened next. And it was interesting. I'm interested in history, and even in the worst possible part of history, I like to learn about what happened, and being able to historical fiction is good because you get a chance to see and feel a bit of what it was really like. And despite everything, it still had that, and it was very good.
I completely agree with everything you've said.
Okay. And you, Claire, you thought it was a good film, as you say?
I thought it was I thought it was incredibly well made.
Yeah.
I thought it was very sensitive without being, what's the word? You know, like when it leans into tragedy and is like, oh, isn't this so terrible? And sort of takes advantage of the tragedy.
Being gratuitous.
Yeah, gratuitous. It like eggs it up and stuff.
Yeah.
There was a casuality to the violence and the mistreatment that made it all the harder to watch, I think, than if they tried to like exaggerate anything or
Yeah, I don't think it made it harder to watch, but I think it made it more affecting.
Yeah.
That sometimes they just try to put the most god-awful thing they can right in the centre of the screen, and you just revile and can't look. And they didn't do that. They just... it was things like that. They're walking through the ghetto and off to the side, there's just a dead body of someone who's just frozen to death and died of hunger or whatever. And they're just not even mentioned. It's just in the corner. And that's so powerful in a way that building up to it and making a big thing about it and playing dramatic music isn't as powerful. And I thought they did that fantastically. Although, it was extremely tough. What do you think, Laura, having watched a very tough film? Was it also a good film?
Yes, I think it was I think it was a very good film. Not 5 stars for me, I have to say, but nearly.
Me neither.
There's a couple of things I would change. I'm not sure because I feel like it wasn't all just. Some of it was really the horror was staring you in the face. Like it wasn't all just off to the side. I'm thinking the moment where the Gestapo rush in and push the man in the wheelchair out of a 3rd story, which just that is center of the screen, like scream at the horrifying. Yeah,
it was.
There's not words for how awful that is.
Yeah.
Yes, I wonder what we can say that's new about the Holocaust. It was, as you say, the worst thing that's ever happened, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. You could start qualifying, but certainly, tough watch. But really well made film, and as you say, very engaging, well paced story. I felt at the end when he's just going from house to house and he's hiding in the city. I started to feel some of his tedium.
Yeah.
Like I started to get quite bored with him.
I see.
I was still interested in the story. And then those punctuated by those moments of like real tension where you think, "Oh my god, is he going to get caught?" Or people keep chasing him, which is frightening. But just a wholly unpleasant to watch.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned that you felt tedium in the second half. What I would say is I felt relief. It was clearly he was not in a good situation, but just the horror of the ghetto and the way people were treated by the Nazis was just so bad. And when he was hiding out, it was him. He wasn't dealing with that day in, day out. It felt like an adventure. It felt like a film about war rather than a film about genocide, and that somehow was easier.
Yeah.
Though I don't know if it was easier for him to live through. And did Claire and Fernanda, did you feel that the second half was easier to watch?
It was very tense. I still found it. I felt very. I suppose it was easier, but they did a very good job of, sort of boring you in the same way he was sort of bored, but also terrified the entire time.
Yeah.
You didn't just have Auschwitz hanging over you the whole time, or wherever his family were being taken. But then that guy just leaving him to essentially die of jaundice, just that complete dependence on people you've never met before.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they just had to leave him on his own, didn't they, when he was feverish and could barely do anything. And they said, look, it looks like you're not going to die. We're just going to leave you.
Well, it wasn't even that. It was the guy who was supposed to be bringing him food and just wasn't.
Just conning people out of their money just to...
Yeah, as what, revenge for him not recognising him or something?
I thought it was just like, this was another instance of just casual, cruel, like, of just how ordinary people can commit acts of evil.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not sure I got this. Can you tell me what happened again?
So when he took ill, it was because the guy wasn't bringing him food and drink.
Oh, really?
The guy with the gold tooth.
Okay. Yeah, the guy that was introduced to him in the flat, and they said, we're handing you over to this guy. He's going to be bringing you your food.
Yeah. Do you remember him? He worked in the studio when you used to record. And the guy was like, oh, no, I don't remember you. And I understood that to mean, like, I thought the guy had been like, oh, yeah, you don't remember the little guy, do you? You remember me now. And then just was raising loads of money to bring him food and drinks, and then was just keeping all the money and not bringing it to him. And that's why he ended up ill with liver failure. And
oh, I didn't get that.
The wife, remember the blonde woman, she comes in when she places the like cloth on his head, and she's like, oh, this is terrible. And then she says, people like that guy, I can't remember his name, Salzo or something, should be shot. He's been going around raising money for you. Oh, making quite a pretty penny. But obviously he's not been...
Oh, I see.
There's a couple of interactions between Spilsman and that guy with the gold tooth as well, where he's like, where have you been? I haven't seen you for 2 weeks. And the guy's like, oh, money's tight. I don't have any money. And you see him give his watch. So that's why we figure out, when the wife's like, he's been raising loads of money for you, that actually he's just been keeping the money and not been giving it.
I see. Oh, I didn't get that.
And when he had jaundice, and the guy was like, nah, I wouldn't worry about it. Nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
Makes you look a bit funny. Don't think about it.
Have a shot of vodka.
Yeah. Oh, dear. Okay.
Wait, what is jaundice? Is jaundice something that you get by simply not eating?
No, it's a form of liver failure. Your body stops processing bilirubin. But you need to be eating to be able to get better.
I also did not get it. I also did not get that scene. I did not know that person was taking some sort of revenge on the pianist.
Maybe he wasn't taking revenge particularly.
No, maybe he was. Maybe I was just not understanding the scene.
Yeah.
Now that you've explained it, I guess it'll make sense. It's just that I wish that I did not understand it as that happening.
You didn't see it as revenge, though, did you, Laura?
I just took it as a different interpretation. The guy was just a
profiteer.
Yeah.
Okay. Ouch.
But yeah, we saw lots of ordinary. It really hammers home how how awful people can be.
Yeah.
I mean, the judgment of Nuremberg bit with the tension is: are they trying the German people, or are they just trying these? The people who committed the acts of murder, like how complicit are the people who knew what was going on and didn't do anything? And I'm like, yeah, you should try the German people. They were all complicit, and the Polish people. You know what? We may as well get the rest of Europe in as well. Try everybody.
Oh, you do just wonder what you would do. You like to think you'd not actively do evil, but would you just sit back and let evil happen if it was threatening your existence?
Yeah.
The answer is probably yes, right?
Yeah.
It's very difficult to fight something that is happening everywhere.
Yeah.
But people they were underground resistances and things. I just don't think I'd be clued up enough to be able to join one. I don't think I'd have the wherewithal to be able to fight that sort of thing out. Or help, I don't have any skills. What am I going to do?
Yeah, I live in a student town and don't know anyone who would be able to get me some weed like that. I do not mix with the sort of people who would have an underground resistance movement. I would just sit at home and watch Netflix and pretend nothing was happening. That is sadly probably true.
It is hard to know what, like, we're just not very resourceful, I feel. Because we could, I mean, there's sort of a genocide happening now. We're not doing anything about it. Oh, God.
Oh, that's a lot.
Why did you make us watch this?
Your fault. You were in Warsaw. I hold you entirely responsible.
I'm never going anywhere ever again. I'm only going to Disneyland from now on.
Oh, now we're talking. Yeah.
I went to see the wall, though, when I was in Warsaw. It was very upsetting.
Oh, how much of it is still there?
Not much. They've just preserved, like, a bit. But you can. It's a fair, like, you know, they had fairly, I wouldn't say narrow streets, but like normal street lengths. They'd left, like, enough of it basically blocked off a street.
Yeah.
Wait, you mean the Berlin Wall? What wall?
The ghetto wall.
Oh, the ghetto wall.
Oh, that's rough.
It's just between, like, normal houses. Like, people live there and look at that every day. It's like, I couldn't fathom that.
Yeah, I mean, this sort of reminds me of, I only went to Berlin once, but the whole of the centre of Berlin just feels like a sort of dark memorial museum. The amount of stuff to do with both the Holocaust and the partition of Berlin was striking. It's sort of everywhere. There's so many signs of it.
It's quite similar in Warsaw. Like, I walked past the memorial for the Warsaw Uprising without intending to go there. I was just, there's that.
Yeah, okay. Sobering.
I thought this film was going to be about the Warsaw Uprising. I was surprised when it was all dealt with in about 3 minutes.
Yeah, and we saw that from his window.
We had to follow some guy who snuck out and just hid out for the rest of the war.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. That's a fine point of view.
Yep. Yeah, it's again, it felt so real, I guess, because it was just the story of this one guy, and I wonder if he really was, like, because he was in 2 flats when he was hiding out, and from one of them he was able to see major fighting in the Jewish uprising, and from the other he was able to see major fighting in the Polish uprising. I wonder how much of that was, like, I wonder if whether one of those was sort of added in just so there was something to put on screen.
Oh, maybe.
When he was just stuck in a flat for a year or 2.
Yeah, it's quite a useful way to tell the broader story, even if he didn't actually witness it.
Yeah.
It's a way to show you some historical action.
Or maybe he did witness it, I don't know. Certainly, parts of these uprisings would have been very visible.
Can I tell you that I would have changed?
Yeah.
Mainly just the end sort of title card.
The main title.
I don't care about that Nazi officer, and I don't think this film should be trying to make me feel sorry for him.
This is my major question about the film. How sympathetic are we towards that officer that helped him near the end?
I felt like he was portrayed sympathetic, like we were meant to. But I don't know what point it was trying to make, whether it was trying to be like there's still like a spark of kindness in individual people, like it was a huge slaughtering machine, but there were like moments of, which was a weird stance to take, I thought, and I didn't care for it.
Yeah, I thought at that point that and it's not like he was a normal soldier, like he was an officer of some kind. He showed his cards. There's no way he got promoted to that position without doing some awful things, and so he happened to like the piano. That wasn't horrifically awful to this one person. Doesn't mean he deserved to die in a horrible camp in Russia, but
I'd go further and I'd say he wasn't even particularly portrayed as a hero in the film. He was, the one thread of hope that did probably save this guy's life, and took a serious risk to himself by harbouring a Jew. But he saw this guy and didn't say, it's okay, I'm going to hide you. Just like the guy clearly, Spielman clearly fearing for his life, and he's just ordering him around for a sort of twisted amusement, telling him go and play the piano, watching him while he did it, asking where he was hiding again. Spielman must have just been thinking, is he about to shoot me? Or worse, what's he going to do? And he was never particularly kind.
No.
But the way he played it was so jaded. For me, it seemed like he had been a full-hearted Nazi who really believed in the cause, and after 6 years of war was just exhausted and just didn't believe in anything anymore, and probably realised that was high enough up in the army that he realised the war was a lost cause, and he was just thinking about what are we doing next? What's the point in continuing to persecute someone who's just hiding out? Almost not really being bothered. But also he did the right thing.
If you do the right thing for the wrong reasons, do you get credit?
Yeah.
Because you're bored of being a cruel human.
Yeah, being fed up of cruelty is that's not entirely a bad motive, but yeah, he didn't seem like a hero to me.
I sort of agree and sort of disagree. I don't know, just a bit when he gave him his coat and he's like, and there's a can opener in there for you.
Yeah.
I think we're meant to take that as kindness. Like if you have a kind character, and then he gets a whole thing devoted to him at the end. It's just the type of part I disagree with. I don't mind the portrayal. I don't mind, especially if it really happened, autobiographical. Like, fine, that's absolutely fine. But that's a film choice to be like, to shine a light on him and be like, he died in a Soviet camp. And I'm like, well, how are you trying to make me feel about this? I don't understand. Like, why are you shining?
Okay.
Why is he getting the?
Do you think the final title card is a place of prestige?
It's a place of note. Yes, it's a note where they like this. You should care about the ending to this character. When I'm like, we shouldn't care about the ending to this character.
Okay.
All the other characters that you've had.
There were a lot of characters who didn't have cards.
Yeah.
Should have had one for every single person.
Is it maybe designed?
Some of his family, maybe, for God's sake, they were all murdered in the concentration camp. We didn't even.
Yeah, you didn't.
They didn't feature in the cards.
It seemed clear to me what had happened to them.
Do you think it's the same? Yeah.
I think it seemed clear. Everything. It was obvious what had happened, except Spielman lived until the year 2000 and was still performing. And oh, by the way, what the hell happened to that one Nazi that was like shouting at the guys that he went and searched for?
Yeah. So do you think it was supposed to tell us more about Spielman, that he went and looked for this guy? Like, this wasn't a particularly kind person, but it was the one bit of goodness he'd felt. Maybe that says more about Spielman than it does about the officer that he.
I think then they would have just left it as him looking for him. Then that would have been about Spielman. But the fact that it wasn't, they didn't relate that to him. They just gave you you probably want to know this, don't you?
Yeah, I see.
So
that's a minor thing, isn't it? It doesn't really affect the film in any way.
No, I don't think it does. But yeah,
it tells us what the filmmakers thought was important.
Yeah,
and it tells us that we disagree with them, maybe. But yeah, I see what you mean about tying up loose ends. There were so many loose ends, though, that you could arguably tie up.
Yeah,
like tell us about the end of the war.
Yeah. I guess we all know what happened, eh? Or yeah, it could have given us something else about maybe other people in high. I don't know. There's lots of decisions you could have taken to end the film on.
Yeah, I feel like a weaker ending potentially, but a possibility would have been sort of this, like, the scale of the Holocaust.
Yeah,
sort of saying this is a story of one man, but this many million people were murdered or displaced or tortured. But yeah, I wonder if that would have... It was so powerful in just telling you about this one person. I wonder if you'd have lost or something by doing that.
Yeah, I don't think we need... we didn't need to be... to have it explained to us at the end that it was really bad, I guess. Interesting. So your thought, Laura, is just no sympathy at all for a Nazi officer.
Yeah.
Even if he sort of turned good near the end, he's just done so many terrible things.
Yeah. I think if your overall message, which I'm not sure it was, but like it's not even down to this has become a machine, and these people aren't even people anymore. They're just, they're part of this. It's a structural thing now. It's just I don't know. You can't see them as, I don't see them as people.
I see.
They're just cruelty. They're just there to torture and slaughter on behalf of the state. I don't know. I just think it's weird to...
I think I was struck throughout the film by how much we were constantly reminded that the Nazis were human, partly because of the unnecessary cruelty, like the guards waiting at the crossroads, telling people to dance, or the their supervisor when he was carrying the bricks, taunting them while they were doing it. They seem to be making a point that this was the hatred of individual people. One that struck me, even though it was perhaps the least, it wasn't the most terrible one, but in a way it was one of the more shocking ones, was the woman who met him in the stairwell and started shouting at him about his identity card and just screaming, he's a Jew, he's a Jew. When she could so easily have just kept quiet. She didn't need to go next door and investigate and go for him. She could have just left him to hide. Those kinds of things seem to me to be a reminder that it wasn't a machine. It was people committing atrocities. How that connects to this Nazi, this officer at the end, I don't know. I was reading a bit about Roman Polanski since the film ended.
We've not acknowledged that, have we?
Well, I think we'll talk about some of the issues with probably child rapist Roman Polanski, but also he was there. He was in that ghetto, and both his parents were killed. He's Jewish, and he went into hiding himself. He was a child, went into hiding. He was like at school when his parents were being taken away, and his dad sort of told him to piss off or something when he started coming close to get him to go and hide. And he went into hiding and then came out of hiding disguising his Jewish identity, and that's how he got through the war, which sort of adds another something to this. This must have been a very personal film for him to have created.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And that, in a way, that shouldn't matter. Like, this stuff really did happen, whether he's the one telling it or not. But if we had any thoughts that maybe it was too sympathetic to Nazis, somehow it being Roman Polanski that makes me think he's probably given them no more than they deserve.
Well, that's what's surprising, because I did sort of know that, but I think you can still critique, even if they've... Oh, that's complicated.
He can still be wrong. You can still think that he was too kind to this guy. But I do have... I don't have Nazi sympathies, but I didn't realise I was about to use that phrase. But I do realise what a mess Germany and Poland were at that time, and how little choice people had in what they did. And I also think that people who've done even the worst imaginable things have the capacity to change and to do the right thing in the end. Which is why I found it interesting to think about that officer, and I found it interesting that we just don't know at the end whether he was a good bloke or whether he was just acting out of boredom or acting arbitrarily or even trying to get a good word in for himself after the armistice. We just don't know, and even Vladislav Spielman, I guess, didn't know what this guy's motivation was. And I think that is important, and I think that's probably why they gave us that title card at the end, was, almost making it clear that, that if we've made this ambiguous, it's because we just don't fucking know.
Yeah, it was always there was an element of self-protection, wasn't there, in the way he was treating Spielman, because he could always sort of, until he'd got him safe again, he could say he was just investigating how he'd got in there, and the way he was treating him cruelly. That's not like treasonous behaviour. That's not him being nice to a Jew. And it was only at the very end he actually did anything that was actually kind, because at that point, if he'd been caught, well, he had nothing to lose. But all of the sort of, he was being kind, but he had to, if he'd been caught, he needed to appear cruel. Definitely just trying to make excuses for him being intimidating. But if he'd been caught acting kindly at that stage, then it would have been,
I see what you mean,
bad for him. But sort of making him play piano and then making him show where he was sleeping, those were all things that he could justify to his colleagues.
I see. Deniable if someone walked in. Which that felt, I think it was meant to, but it felt like a moment of suspense for me, that if anybody else walks in here, he's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a piece on the piano, by the way.
Yeah. Lovely stuff.
I take it that's an established piece of music that he really might have played. It's Chopin. Okay.
Yeah. And I know that because to get the German, I had to download the script, because the version you uploaded wouldn't work for me either.
Oh no! Oh, that's sad. It does make you cross, doesn't it? So many people put so much into this film, and it means so much. It cost, how much was the budget for this film? It must have been in the millions. Oh, in fact, I'm looking at it now. It's $35 million this cost. And they're sending people DVDs and broadcasting versions of this on Amazon, where they just sort of forgot and didn't bother with the subtitles for the German bits. So there's huge bits of it you just don't understand unless you speak German. What are we doing?
That's pretty stupid.
Just the folly.
Yeah, but to be honest, it was quite fun reading the script along. It was sort of like a read-along. I just eventually started reading the script while it was on. It's not the best way to watch a film, but...
Oh, dear.
Yeah. It was better than when I got my friend to try and translate the German live.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, which would have become a real mess towards the end, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the German did. There was more German as we went on.
There certainly was. What did you all think of the humour? There was just this little bit of humour as we went through.
Was there?
Yeah.
Was there?
I guess it was. I guess the humour didn't strike a big chord with you. Obviously very dark humour. Things like him nearly getting shot to death by the Poles at the end because he's wearing a German coat.
Yes.
And they say, "Why the fucking coat?" And he says, "I'm cold." Just as the line that ends the tension of the film seemed, striking somehow.
I feel like that was the only moment of humour.
I think that I'm sure there are other ones. There was a dark joke that one of the other people told when they were gathered around the table eating their soup.
I'm not sure. Were we meant to find that funny?
I don't know. Well, I don't even know if we were really meant to find the "I'm cold" joke funny. It's not a funny situation. But yeah, it was a joke that they decided to put in there, even though it was a joke from this very like jaded guy. But I'm trying to remember if there was anything else. I feel like there was maybe one more thing. So that the sort of execution where he just pulls aside 10 of the workers and shoots them all through the head, but he's only got 9 bullets in his gun, so they're lying down there and he fires at the guy and it doesn't fire, so the guy's still lying there waiting to be shot for 15 seconds while he reloads his gun. There was something, I didn't laugh, but there was something. Was there an irony or a just? Can you believe that happening?
It's more surreal and humorous, isn't it? It's just
yeah, I guess so.
It felt like that. The film. Oh, sorry. I forget what it was called.
Are you thinking of The Death of Stalin?
Yes.
Yeah,
and it was stuff like that.
Full of stuff like that.
Stuff like that I just didn't find funny in The Death of Stalin.
Right.
But I feel like, those were similar moments in Death of Stalin. They were supposed to be funny.
No, The Death of Stalin was funny. It had Steve Buscemi in it, for God's sake.
You see, that's the difference.
They should have got Steve Buscemi in this film. I would have really upped the laugh.
Yeah, I hated that film because it was full of stuff like that.
That's fair. I can see that.
Wait, you hated The Death of
why
Stalin?
it was so funny.
Yeah, I didn't think it was funny at all.
What?
I know, it's ridiculous.
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there was no joke in there that you could really laugh out without feeling the tragedy as well. And I guess that was what we were seeing there. Yeah, tough stuff.
We've got 2 minutes left.
Oh, 2 minutes left. Well,
final thoughts.
I don't feel like playing the normal games that we do.
No.
Can we think about Can we think about the Geneva Conventions? Were the Geneva Conventions adopted after the Second World War?
Yes, let's think about that.
I think they were adopted before the Second World War. I think they were on the books, and I think certainly the Nazis and the Japanese and the Soviets just ignored them in many times, and the Allies ignored them sometimes.
Okay, because that made me think. I guess I've been thinking about the last scene, the Crisis one, where they shoot him because he's wearing the German coat. Because I think that the Geneva Conventions say that when a soldier, even if it's, well, especially if it is from the enemy's combatants, if they are unarmed, and I think that you're supposed to either arrest them or try to help them if they have surrendered. So I think it would go against the Geneva Convention to shoot a German when he clearly isn't trying to kill you.
Yeah.
Which I think is what is happening.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I think it is what is happening right now in Ukraine. That basically they're shooting Russians even when they have surrendered.
I see. Yeah, I see. I think the stuff about civilians might have been after the Second World War, and the stuff in the Second World War was about prisoners of war and wounded and sick soldiers, I think.
Well, I think all of this was just horrible, whether they were abiding.
It's horrible anyway.
Abiding or not abiding by the Geneva Conventions, everything in the film was just horrible. And I think it is good, and I know that it was a really tough watch, but I think it is good that this kind of films or I guess some other kind of reminders of that period also exist, because I think we should not forget about it.
Yeah, I think if this film did nothing else, will be something that reminds people of just how bad it got.
Harrowing. A harrowing watch. Thank you, Claire.
You are welcome.
No, it was good. It was a really, really well made, good film. I'm glad I've seen it. It was, felt sick the entire way through, which I think is how I was meant to feel. So there you go.
Yep.
No, it was so good that I think I will be reading the book.
Really?
I think I was inspired that much, so I think I will be reading the book.
Oh, I'd love to hear what your views on it are. Great. I think that was 3 of us liked it, and Claire, in the end, just didn't like it because it was too awful.
Yeah, I appreciate it was well made and stuff, but
okay,
yeah,
you wouldn't recommend it.
Heavily caveated.
Yeah. I have very mixed feelings.
For example, we watched this at my school one afternoon, like near the end of term. They just got the year group into the lecture theatre and we watched the whole of this film from start to finish.
Wow.
I think on the basis that it's children at school need to be taught this stuff and need to know how bad it was.
Wait, how old were you?
6.
15, 16 probably.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not 11.
Not 9.
Not 9.
How are we feeling about moving on? Because we could also not do the double bill and keep talking about this, although I've said everything I think I had to say about it.
I think I've said everything I had to say. Anyone else got any more thoughts?
This film was so intense.
It was very intense. I feel like it was like traumatic. There's bits of it are very intense and bits of it are basically forgotten.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.